kind of talking about, or I've been talking about sporadically with people, are like improving the DApp and making it like a great donation center, quadratic funding, and a bunch of other things. But like my kind of intention is to like do kind of a round of like what everybody's thinking individually, and then we can kind of see where our ideas intersect. And then we can kind of like take all this information and share it with all the working groups so that we can kind of like move forward with focused vision. We have the roadmap repo, which is like, we were talking about how it like maybe needs to be renamed because it like has some votes of products that maybe we want to integrate. But I think this like top level vision of like reprioritizing is really important. So that is why you're all here now. And I made a Notion now. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll put it in the chat. And then we can just kind of like, maybe we can just do like a quick check-in on kind of like your first thoughts about this, but then like maybe just after like a quick round where everybody gets to speak, we can take a little bit longer and start with like whoever really has a big idea about this to sort of kick it off. So, cool. No worries. I just shared the Notion in the chat. And so those are my thoughts. And so I'll just kind of, I'll pass it to Griff if you have anything. Yeah, if you want to just like say how you're doing and like any other intentions for the call or like what your perspective is on this.
I'm doing great. I'm super excited about this Gitcoin round, and I hope that we can figure out how we can have this same kind of excitement around things that happen on Giveth. That's my intention in this call, at least, is to figure out what can we do to get users, and that's all that matters this year for me. I'll throw it over to Monique.
Hey, the same. My intention for the call is to everyone agrees on a single priority that we have to achieve together, and that's the teamwork. And I think the scaling is or should be our main concern. I pass it to Mitch.
Yeah, I like what Monique said. Just like agree on like, well, maybe not a single, but like 2, maybe 3 things that we really want to like focus on this year, but like make sure that we're going in the same direction. I think that's the most important thing. And yeah, I'll pass it to Corey.
Yeah, I think, I was really happy that this call was being scheduled because it's really would be helpful to align, just be clear on like what really the top priorities are. So like increasing volume of donations or number of users or both at the same time. And then being able to kind of segment what each working group is doing to kind of go along with those priorities for this year. So I'm wondering if we can narrow it down a bit to just a couple for clarity. I'll pass it to you, Ashley.
Hey guys. All right. I think that it's great we're having this call. It's very aligned with what we were talking about in governance, and it feels like the right time. And talking about defining some goals is also great, something that we're definitely working on. Or have been working on a little bit with Kotabe. My intentions for the call are just, I've been wanting to maybe step up into see how I can be a better leader for my working group. So I think that this is a perfect call for me to be in and see how I can do that. I am very distracted by so many things happening in my world right now. So that's the only distraction I really have. There's just a lot of things on my plate that I'm trying to do, and I have 6 hours of calls today. And I will pass it to Amin.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, I'm excited to listen and we revise what we have done and change our roadmap to be all people say that we are should focus on gathering more users and yeah, maybe we should, if we define better goals regarding to that, maybe go for changing our routines, our human resources, I mean, and etc. That will be exciting. I pass it to Kai.
Oh, alaikum. I am like this is awesome, guys. In Barcelona, the Arabic part is laughing. I'm in Barcelona. I mentioned to Marco, Mitch, and a couple of other people that we should actually have a quarterly strategy meeting. Because I noticed in our community calls, it's more like this frontal update, I think, and the actual strategizing mostly happens inside the groups, maybe even in one-on-ones and like anywhere. And so information flow is a bit bad. So I really like that we have this here. It would be awesome to, if it's successful, to have it more often. Have it open. Maybe the stewards are the ones talking, but everyone can join. I would like that. But so for me, the goal would be to have a strategy that is like combined into a meta and not like every circle or work group. And I'm with Monique. You said that DevOps is really about scaling the application horizontally so we can serve our users that we get in the thousands. I'm pretty sure everyone has gone. Right, Mitch?
Yeah, everyone has gone. Thanks, Kai. I think you're really quiet. Also, I mean, everyone's been quiet for me, so I was thinking it's kind of my problem, but other people have said you're very quiet too, so maybe there's some mic thing. I did max you out, and I could hear you, but like this.
No, it's the same for me. It's the same for me. Something with your mic, maybe.
Maybe you could check your settings as we start.
Full volume, and I'm screaming here. I'm talking really loud, even for my. So I will.
Okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, yeah, I guess like maybe I'd love to pass it to Griff for kind of a jumping off point, because I know Griff had a lot of ideas about things that we should focus on, and then like we can kind of like just start from there, sort of like a debate or a little bit more of a discussion. I think everybody has their ideas, but I'll pass it to you, Griff. What do you think we should focus on this year, like main things that you think are priorities?
Well, I think aligning on some metrics, like what I heard a few people say is like, hey, we should have just one or two things that we're going for. And I think it's like daily active or monthly active users and amount of donations. And I feel like those are probably the two stats that I would say, this is what we got to figure out. I don't know that we can have like, oh, let's just do this one thing. Maybe if we're going to do one thing, it's probably user research, because we're clearly not satisfying the needs of our community, and we are trying other things. But maybe we need to, and I've gotten this feedback from people, maybe we need to start asking our users what they actually want. I don't know that anyone asked, like Gitcoin obviously is the most successful group in our space. I don't think they asked, hey, does anyone want quadratic funding? And people are like, yeah, no, only Vitalik wanted quadratic funding, right? So I don't know that user research is going to give us direction, but at least it can help us fix important things. Yeah, so I mean, obviously I have the basic ideas. I feel like the best thing that we can do is make Giveth the default place for going for crypto donations. Hey, Marco.
Hello.
I feel like the best thing we can do is make Giveth the default place to go for crypto donations. What, you want to launch an NFT for a nonprofit? You just go to Giveth. Giveth does it for you. You want quadratic funding? Yeah, that happens on Giveth. Anything that's Web3 funding for charities this year, we should get those clear features that are working in Web3 donations on Giveth. And probably double down on direct marketing to outside of the crypto space for donors. That's but also, I can't remember who I was talking to. Maybe it was Monique, but Melody, or one of the things that made Gitcoin really successful is that somehow, some way, they tricked all of us to do their marketing for them, right? Like we are all, every group in Web3 that's getting donations has to worry about Gitcoin grant rounds and like, oh my God, this is coming up. We need to get prepared for it. How do we get that kind of mobilization, so that we're not doing the marketing, but people are doing the marketing for us? Probably means direct outreach for matching pool funds, these sorts of things. These are hard problems to solve, but that's the landscape I see in front of us. And I'm really curious to hear what other people think. So does anyone want to jump in and say their piece?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in regarding the Gitcoin, how they made us want they made us want Gitcoin. They made us want something from them. That's why we promoted them. Basically, we did the marketing for them because they had something that we wanted from them, and that is either promotion of our project. Of course, number one is getting funds, matching pools, and so on and so forth. And then there's a whole lot of things, other benefits that Gitcoin brings you as a project, as a team, as an organization. There was the kernel as well. It builds up the whole picture, and that's why we did the marketing for them. What we need to do at Giveth, if we want to do, I don't know if we should even do the similar approach, if we can afford to do that, or we have something like that, because if we're targeting nonprofits and going down into meat space, how are we going to make these people actually do the marketing for us in the Web3 space, right? Or elsewhere. So what I think we need to focus on, I say all the points that you already mentioned, Griff, but definitely. I think I posted a comment on that on the forum, trying to partner up with someone like a big name in the industry, nonprofit space, or whoever, and make a huge announcement of Giveth is part, similar to Gitcoin is doing with UNICEF, or stuff like that. And also maybe try to get some influencers talk about Giveth in terms of how we made their lives better. Just like other projects are posting updates, but instead of, I don't know, maybe an unknown person from Africa, it could be, Bob Burnquist, and people like him. So, yeah, that's for now.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, I think that the main reason that Gitcoin was so popular at getting people to do marketing for them is just because there's a lot of fucking money there. People are cool, matching funds. So I think raising for our matching funds is a really important one. And we had this idea about quadratic funding, and Kevin Owaki was suggesting we integrate quadratic funding into Giveth and have that be a baseline for sort of more protocol collaboration. And then it was sort of thrown around in the GiveFi call and other things, and we're why are we doing this? What's the point? Blah blah blah. And I think a big point would be if we raise a big matching fund, it would be kind of the Phantom or the other Gitcoin rounds that people are doing, and then it's hey, actually there's this huge matching fund here on Giveth, and then people start doing the marketing because there's just a bunch of money there. So I think that's one key thing that Gitcoin does that we don't do is this fundraising. And we had a meetup in Toronto, and Scott Moore was there, and he does a lot of fundraising for Gitcoin. And he was hey, I'd be happy to help you raise for QF for Giveth. So we could even use Gitcoin's resources to start building that matching pool. So I do think that quadratic funding is a valuable thing that we should focus on integrating this year. And my criticisms of quadratic funding, right now on Gitcoin, is just the user experience is honestly quite bad. It's so bad. And like, even just this, like applying for the grant took me 2.5 hours yesterday because it was so convoluted and there were so many bugs. And then like, we didn't even have the grant link until the grants round started this morning. And then I had to like dig for it until I found it so that I could make a tweet like at the beginning of this call. So I was late. So anyway, super bad user experience, but something that Giveth really excels at is like, I think our user experience is super great and is always improving. And I think like if we can focus on improving the user experience of donation flows on our DApp and then also like integrate quadratic funding, that would be a really great way to bring a lot more user funds onto our platform. And so that's kind of like this one idea that I had. But anyway, that's my piece for now. Does anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah. I think that there's like a weird like psychosis around this that like if we build something that Gitcoin did, that we will also be successful. And it's like, I think that's like a bad assumption because it worked for them because they built it first and they did it well and they got lots of money behind it. Like, albeit whatever it is with the user experience, like they did it first and it worked for them. So like assuming that if we do this, if we copy someone else that was successful, that we will be successful too is like kind of a logical fallacy, I think. And like, I think you're gambling a lot on that actually going to pan out for you, you know? This guy got rich by doing this thing, so if I do that exact same thing, it's going to work.
It's not guaranteed.
Totally how it works, Mitch.
It's definitely not a logical fallacy. It's kind of like, so I saw him turn on the light switch and it turned on. If I turn that switch, will a light come on? It's like, absolutely. It's like, I understand the concept, like, hey, we're not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. But I do think that there is more opportunity in doing something that works, that has been shown to work, and following a pattern and maybe improving on it, than there is
one person did it and it worked. So then we're going to assume that if we do it, then it'll work.
Let's put that to rest. There are more arguments to this. And I mean, yeah, history is full of both examples. I want to remind you guys of a couple of things. Like Gitcoin is around for a bit longer than quadratic funding and nice website. And it started as a bounty thing. I remember I got my Gitcoin shirt at, I think, the first DEF CON. So I'm wearing it. People ask me about it. And everyone's was just assuming a token. Everyone was like, what is this Gitcoin? Where can I buy Gitcoin? I'm like, there is no Gitcoin to buy, silly. It's a platform. It means Git and to, have bounties. That's what it comes from. It comes from bounties for GitHub. And I also like that somebody said, I think Lauren said they have so much money. They do have so much money. They do have quadratic funding from the start of their success. There's like 2 steps for me. Quadratic funding, which was heavily pushed by Vitalik. We didn't get a shout out even yet. So if Vitalik is going to talk about your product 10 times a month, there are your customers. That's the last thing of like, we never got that far. I don't know why. We get his dad, which is nice. It's awesome. We get the cool Vitalik, the cool Buterin, I mean. And the other thing is, for me, these are really different products. And what my tip would be because I think that's what really sells, is like we could offer a bit more, let's call it greenwashing, because we're among us, to other projects. Like many people want to bulk donate some form to something that looks charitable. And we had some examples in the past. Unfortunately, it's usually like smallish projects, but they want to increase trust. So they say, hey, 5% or whatever of this goes to Giveth. And I think that is a very good model because projects are starting all the time. And if the more we are known, the more this really, translates into a benefit for them.
Yeah, I want to maybe kind of come back to the goals, and I think a very important goal that kind of like touches on all of these things that we're talking about is number of active projects. We have to remember that right now we may have 1,700 projects that show on our platform, and maybe only 220 of them even know that they have a project on our platform and can access it and be active. So bringing more users, bringing more donors, getting people to advertise for us, our projects, spreading the word for us, they first need to even like know that they're a part of our platform.
I think that we're suffering from, marketing, to be honest. I know we have lots of problem on the product, and we just create features without measuring them. But it's obvious, I was just reviewing our donation and our active users, not active users, our donations and our monthly projects. And total of the donations, and I figure out even if us just use the platform, it could be better data or statistics. It shows that even us don't use the platform for donation. It's said that if you want a successful product, for example, you have a kind of, for example, file sharing thing, you just try to start using it, even with your family, with your friends, with your community. If we can't make it usable in our community, then how we can, market it? So I think that it gets so much unestimated, for the efforts that bring the users to the platform. So I think we have to do standard things like create standard campaigns, creating keywords for them, measuring every campaigns about the total leads that we bring into our domain, and measuring the conversion rate of these leads to the opportunity or to the active users, and measure the amount of the active user that made the donation. Also, we have a platform, so we have different aspects of the business. One of our aspects is B2B, like what Marcus said, or what Lawrence said about quadratic funding, partnership with others, with the UNICEF, etc. We can do lots of stuff, and I think the way that we can bring the project owners to create project is kind of B2B. So this B2B business is totally different with the digital, the events, etc., or with the partnership plans. But with the B2C side, there are lots of standard things that we can bring traffic. If you want to review our traffic, I think our homepage does not have much traffic. Only the project owners can bring us traffic. The unique users that came to our website. So, as a point of view, I think that these KPIs can be, we call it OKRs. I think Marco knows much about it. That we can set a global target, then we can split it out for different working groups and try to align it together. So if we want to have this, maybe we can have a kind of OKR coach that can help us for the whole process. And I think every target of each working group can be aligned. So, for example, me as a product owner has to be careful about the conversion rate, because conversion rate is a total, user experience thing. If marketing has, for example, if Corey brings lots of leads to our website and I cannot make them to donors or real users, this is my fault as a product manager. But if we don't have lots of leads, it means that the users do not see us. So this is a marketing thing. We have to be careful about that. About the number of the projects, the activities of them, I think this is the different thing. This needs outreaches. This needs partnerships. This needs events. or even direct. We should define key account managers for some of the big projects, or account managers for some specific projects that routinely they have to call with each other and ask them about what they feel about their project. And you guys has to tell the product what to build. This is what I think. So.
Yeah, I can jump in as well. So basically, like I also agree with bringing in more money to the platform, whether that's via quadratic funding or whatever mechanism makes the most sense. But I think that at the core of it, people are willing to deal with just about anything, like a really bad UX, if they can get access to that, right? Like that's at the heart of it. I think why people are really into using Bitcoin. It's just that there's money there. It's like everything else I've seen in Web3. People go to like where the opportunity is. And it is actually a good thing to note that they are willing to jump through every hoop, right, for that. So the good thing is we already have a good UX. And we also have this additional factor, like the give economy, which I think is really interesting. I mean, we have mechanisms for additional upside beyond the donation component. So if I relate that to Gitcoin, I mean, if all things were equal, wouldn't you use Giveth over using Gitcoin? So that's still an interesting thing, I think, to think about or play with. Also, this all relates to marketing. And then there's also the point of like having stronger projects that people in Web3 care about, because when you go on Gitcoin, you basically can find like every, I guess major project, or maybe they're just bigger names or well-known names in Web3 specifically, because we have Web3 donors. So a lot of, Web3 donors care about regular social impact projects too, but they really care about Web3 projects. And, if we had more of the influential ones on the DApp, that might make a difference, alongside having influential ambassadors or influencers, people who are just going to naturally promote Giveth to like new user groups, and then also like within Web3. And then the third thing is, I really agree with like the user research component. Like establishing more feedback loops at this point would really help, I think. Like, and that's with doing discovery calls with new leads to really hone in on like why they're not using Giveth yet, what their first take is when they see Giveth, when they're introduced to Giveth, like, so we can figure out maybe what's stopping people from using Giveth right now. And also that's like with new users, doing lots of these discovery calls and kind of just seeing like where the sticking points are, and then also doing research calls with our existing like knowledgeable users. I'm sure we could sort some out where we start to understand really like what kept them on Giveth over time, like what brought them into the first place, why are they still using Giveth, what would they like to see like moving forward. And I think we tap into that somewhat, but I think if we did some like more in-depth research calls with people, we would get a lot of useful information, and that will help us a lot to steer our marketing efforts in the right direction, so we know like exactly what to hone in on the most. I don't know, we did this one poll on Twitter asking people what feature like brought them to Giveth first, and a lot of people said the rewards, so money. But the other thing was like the community, like the people, like the team. Well, maybe we should be doing a lot of that in our marketing. Like, I don't know, that's like a very simple example of one poll we threw out on social media. But if we did more in-depth focused calls, I think that might help us a bit. Not that people can really tell us what to develop, but at least we'll start to understand how people think and what's bringing them in. So that's kind of what I think.
Would really love to have even more. I feel it's partly also the campaigns or the projects that are run. people are not donating. Like, I don't even like to donate. I don't donate. I will support something where I see an outcome. So this is like the whole impact investing thing, right? Like you want to see impact. If you can see some impact, you will donate again. But that's the thing. Like, I give my hard-earned money to somebody to YOLO it or not, to do something, good with it. And to be honest, there are some okay campaigns there. There's nothing really that blows me away. I'm not the best. Like, I'm not browsing Giveth all day, and I'm sure I've overlooked something, but I'm just a regular user then after, like there is no real reason why I need to like something. So that's one of the things. I also want to be honest, like some things look like outright scams and we don't even I mean, there's this one guy posting in our Discord like some school in Africa, always the same pictures once a week. Still in our channel, still campaign is still up. It looks fishy as hell. Like, even if you look at the campaign, the photos are photoshopped. And I mean, I know that it's a lot of work, and I really like the way it's been going along with verification process and all of that. But I think it would be good to be even stricter with that, to boot people for non-compliance, or at least remove the verified status, and just try to curate the doers here. Like, try to get the doers onto Giveth that really do something and change something in this world. Because if you show somebody a cool campaign, I'm pretty sure they will just donate, because, and that's the good thing, nobody likes crypto except crypto people. But for crypto people, it's pretty much effortless. It's so frictionless. It's nice. And there is a lot of opportunity here. It's hard to tap into, because this is like the nitty-gritty work, a little bit of luck, and maybe we are focusing so much of our attention on economics and where it's not even necessary.
One thing I really want to say, like, so we're getting a lot of people saying, like, we need to focus on, like, what our users want and bringing more people into the platform and, like, doing this kind of, like, research and outreach and influencers and stuff like this. Our comms team is actually, like, super limited and super overloaded as it is. And so, like, I think that's something we also need to consider, like, as stewards of these working groups, is, like, how can we actually divide up work? Or even maybe, like, how can we repurpose some resources, or, like, focus, like, maybe people who aren't necessarily comms people or comms people. Like, I'm not a comms person. I did not study this stuff. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm just talking to people because I speak English. And, like, so I think that if we were even able to, like, if our top priorities are, like, outreach, user research, and even, like, what Monique was saying about, like, let's run campaigns and then, like, do analytics and check out that data. Like, this is awesome. And we've been running comms campaigns and trying to do our best with the data, but it's like, Jake makes a user survey and he gets some data, and then it's like, here's the data. And then we close the GitHub issue because we didn't have time to look at it, because then there were blog posts and announcements and super overloaded over here. So I think, like, anyway, if we're reprioritizing, refocusing to, like, doing a lot more of this, like, outreach or influencer stuff, improving projects, then we need, like, maybe even our hard skill people doing more soft skill stuff.
Yes, as a little break thing, we can have a one-on-one and look at automation. It's really awesome what people do with ChatGPT these days. For, you create content once, but you get a blurb and a tweet and whatever, like, full marketing package from one source. We can talk about this.
Totally. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, I see that as the point of this call, right? It's first about brainstorming, figuring out the priorities, and then realigning resources, or making sure that our resources are aligned to pull it off this year, right?
Yeah.
I think it's outside of comms. We have a lot of, there's, like, people doing outreach for other purposes. Like, it's just, I think it can be set up even with our existing resources. It's just about prioritizing one thing over the other.
Yeah. So we didn't. Oh, go ahead.
I think that's going to be a key part, is prioritizing high impact, low effort. Less blog posts. I don't think they get us very far. only when there's like a clear reason for the blog post. Less high effort tasks, and especially if they haven't had an impact. I interrupted. Someone else was going to say something though.
I actually wanted to pass it to Amin because we've heard from everybody a little bit, and maybe Mitch again as well, because we kind of heard a little bit more from everybody, but not from those two people very much. So, Amin, what are you thinking?
Yeah, thank you. I get we have Giveth. We are combining many ideas that we don't have enough resources to do all of them in the best way. For instance, we should verify projects, follow up their updates, and actually, is it easy to trust a person that posts something and say that, yeah, I'm doing some public good? Maybe we can rely on some other third party that they define as project, and at least we can advertise with more effort and be confident that what we are, if we are confident and in what we are advertising, and the what is advertised is an eligible project, I guess we will get more impact. We have tokenomics, we are playing with smart contracts, we are creating a DeFi system, we are creating we want to create a fancy UI application for donating, and we want to deal with handling donations, and there are lots of stuff. We will create something, but I think it's not the killer. I think if we can focus and maybe just do something in the best way, as for instance, do the marketing, gather users, create killer applications that say, yeah, whenever someone drops in, never leave us again, and always use the application. I think considering this may help us and defining priorities and what we should do ourselves, what we can rely on. For instance, the Carbon project mint tokens, but they rely on some registry, I guess, if I'm not wrong, registry organization, something that they trust them, that they are evaluating who is absorbing carbon. They have a crypto project and they don't do it themselves. That, yeah, this person had planted trees. This person had decreased the pollution by adding some filter. I don't know. Yeah, just that. Thank you for asking me. I give it back to you.
I think our verification teams does pretty well, honestly. I'm just gonna throw that out there, and especially like Kai, if there's a project that looks scammy, DM Ashley, and I feel like they're pretty hot on the trigger.
Yeah, anytime if you guys notice anything.
I didn't mean it in disrespect. I know.
Knowing, and yeah, we.
I was like also a little defensive. I was like, man, Ashley does so much work here.
And it's actually really not that hard, and we are looking into.
I mean, there were a lot more scams on Gitcoin. I mean, not this round because they only took the best ones from us, but lots of scams. Lots of impersonations. It's a hard problem to solve, but I actually think we're doing a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, if
the
you
problem
guys
is no one cares.
I would definitely really.
The projects don't help raise funds. Projects aren't advertising that they have a Giveth campaign. They make one and they're like, oh, okay. I mean, like, why isn't Gitcoin collecting matching funds through Giveth? All their people would get Give tokens. It's crazy. It's crazy. They're for sure collecting crypto donations, but they're not using the Giveth project, right? Why? That's good. Yeah.
Did someone made an offer for that to them?
They made it. Kevin Owaki made it very close to launch. I even advertised it in my talks sometimes. You can donate to Gitcoin on Giveth. Goes to the matching campaign. But their fundraisers don't do it, right?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Wow. For some reason, my mic wasn't working.
I wanted to say, like, as a verification team, if you guys notice anything that looks fishy, please let me know. I would love to look at it more. I do my best, and I really don't think that it's too much work for our verification team right now. Like, Nicola and I handle it pretty well, and we always check in with each other and don't feel overloaded, but we are looking into like how we can incorporate impact evaluation information into the process, and that impact evaluation would be done by a third party. And I do agree, I think that we should start being a little bit more strict when it comes to the mandatory update thing. I'm just really hesitant for our number of verified projects to drop. You know, we've worked really hard to bring that up, so I've tried to kind of hold people's hands, but maybe it's time to be a little bit more strict.
Isn't it also about like education, because one thing Griff said is nobody is advertising their campaigns, which is, I mean, it's not going to work anyway if they don't. Like, this is how Kickstarter works. This is how everything works. And those platforms, that's what they tell you. They're like, we have a good front page. You might land there, but please share it. And that's also with the verified project. If we keep the quality up, I wouldn't be afraid of the number going down. It's certainly impressive, but I'd rather have something. I mean, you're doing a great job with verification, but we can have a one-on-one also. I have many opinions there, I see.
Yeah, and I want to pass it also just to Mitch, because the only thing you really got to say, Mitch, was that you're not sure that quadratic funding is the best approach, but you didn't really say what you do think is.
Oh, yeah, I was just mostly agreeing with stuff that's already been said around like community and comms and like, bringing people in that are high quality and then finding ways to retain them. Like, I think that's the big focus. And Kai made a good point about having all of these tokenomics that might be over-engineered for what we're actually pulling in, like in terms of like users and numbers and stuff. And so, I'm guilty of this probably more than anybody else, of like going overboard and over-engineering things. So it's like, okay, slow down, focus on the soft skills and like the social side of Giveth rather than the technical side of it. And maybe that translates into KPIs somewhere down the road, but I think that's the general direction that we need to take with this year, essentially. Make the social side more appealing to get mass adoption.
Something else that I've been thinking of. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, something else I've been thinking of is doing the social side of things, but then also we can work on focusing. Like, we have so many developers who are awesome, and we don't want to just be like, okay, we're not developing anything anymore. But I do think that like things like the homepage improvement or improving the Give economy, and like maybe we also lean too much on Mo for design. I think like design is this like suffocated resource that we're always like, give me more design. But like improving our application so that like when people go to it, they're actually like pulled in. And so like working on the homepage and getting Corey and Steve are going to work on copy and kind of like bringing more people into it and trying to make it like appeal to our users better. I think like, and then also things like our search function is kind of like weird and sort of bad sometimes. Like, what if we focused on like improving things on the DApp? We have a bunch of issues as well that are like open from before that it's like, oh, this is weird and why doesn't it work this way? But we kind of like neglect them in favor of like, we're building this new product and adding onto it. So maybe we could also spend some of our development resources on just even cleaning up the board of like issues that are there that are like improvement issues to our existing infrastructure. Cool. Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to add as just kind of like general brainstorming? Because I think then we have 10 minutes left, and I think then the next thing after that is if we could really try to just like agree on a couple of things that we want to like pass to working groups, like actual actionable tasks. Like, so it's like get more users, but it's like make surveys or something, or like, improve the search function or integrate quadratic funding or something, so that we can kind of like, agree on like, 5 or 6 bigger tasks that we want to focus on.
I think we can sum up the whole thing here. We said before that we want to make a product that's focusing on the donor aspect, and that was maybe the phase 1. Now is phase 2, and now we're focusing on the project side of it all, and also on growing, and that means like scaling the thing and like making a feature stuff. So last year was feature land and for the donors, and now maybe we're transitioning in for the projects and less features, more stability.
Sorry, I just added something there, but because the background is not good, it's not shown properly, I just want to re-paste it here. I think that we're at this part, if you take a look at the feature, we just nailed it. And we're really at this point of rethinking about the project management. So we want to bypass the early majority to a scale, I think. I think we're at this point. So if we want to do that, we really have to think about the scale. The scale of the users, have a specific meaning. So if you take a look, you ease down the development side, and until get at the top, then you have to milk it, then have to kill it. So I think we're stable right now, and we had a good development, so we have to scale it. So as Lawrence said, the efforts has to focus on only the scaling things, not the very epic, strange, projects that takes more than, for example, 3 months. If the projects or the features takes more than 3 months, I think we have to forget about it. So the improvements, the things that with the leadership of the comms team or marketing team can bring us more traffic, I think it should be the priority. Also, I really want to have this OKR system. I suggest that we have a kind of OKR coach, because the literature is, all of you are saying the same thing. Where we talk about the priorities and we have the one single goal and we want to divide it to different working groups. This is the OKR, and I think it's worth it that we have a kind of coach to help us how we can split down these targets and get to use to deliver based on our targets.
One thing that we should consider this year, until we get investment, until we get good grants, that there is no hiring. There's no hiring of anyone for coach or anything else unless we're firing someone. So, we probably want to, we have to live within our budgets. And if we want to change the makeup of our team, that's possible. One important thing that I'm trying to do is get work for General Magic. I also stopped hiring devs for General Magic because we have an incredible dev team here, and I don't want to lose a single one. And so we need to find work for them. And so outsourcing our dev team is basically an important strategy from my perspective, so that we can keep this awesome team together and give them work that actually brings in revenue to Giveth. And General Magic is poised to bring that revenue in. So, so doing less on the dev side is likely to happen, just because that's what we have to do to stay fundable. It's already starting, so that's good. And so the other thing that I'd add is I really like this strategy of projects advertising Giveth for us. And so maybe that in a short term could be something that we try to figure out how to do. I think quadratic funding is the most obvious solution, but there are probably others that could get people to support us, or actually say, hey, I have a campaign on Giveth, so I want all my friends to get a wallet if they don't have one and donate on Giveth to my project? Like, how do we get that kind of action? Or even just like tweeting it, at least, you know, people tweeting their Giveth projects and saying, hey, this is my project. I'm raising funds here. I need it. Please, this is an awesome project. I think there's a lot of strategies to go around with that kind of concept in mind, like project focus to bring donors in, making it easy for projects to run campaigns. Maybe we help them run campaigns.
It's a bit, also don't forget, sorry, I just wanted to quickly mention that we're always anti-cyclical with this. We're always ready when the market, goes down. And then when it's back up again, we spend all our energy and funds on the way there. So we have to start from zero. Maybe different this time, might be another cycle, we don't know. But Griff, that's like, we're doing this show for some time now. And I never felt like better about like what we built. And I never felt like it was like as usable, as in focus, and as needed and ready. But crypto is not, like the world is not ready for crypto again. So it might be ready again. Who knows? It's not all our fault, is what I'm saying. Not all our negligence. Yeah, right, negligence. Thanks for the notes.
Ashley, you were going to say something too?
Yeah, I was just gonna throw out there, just kind of like since we're at the end and defining goals and stuff, that I think as a project verification team, I think our goals are definitely figuring out the mandatory updates and as well as like activating and getting our current projects engaged. So figuring out this thing with giving block and changing over to change and how that's gonna look, if that will work for us. Just ways to get our current projects more active so that when we do run these campaigns and we do start activating our project owners to advertise for us, we have a much bigger user base to talk to. And then on the community side of things, on the Communitas group, just getting more, we're doing these podcasts, we're doing the Twitter spaces and planning for ETH Denver and in-person events and stuff. So just continue kind of on that path with community building going forward. So I just wanted to state like out loud the two goals for my two working groups that I have found through this call.
Thanks, Ashley. I love that. Maybe, does anybody else want to jump in with some thoughts that they have for their working groups? I honestly think for Give Economy, I'm going to meet with the Gitcoin team and talk more about quadratic funding and see if we can figure out like a low effort, high impact solution for getting a bunch of funding in a matching pool on Giveth and starting to do quadratic funding on Giveth.
For fundraising, I because it's not really an official working group, but it's pretty much there. I think we're going to focus on trying to get a matching pool funds ready, as well as, of course, pushing grants and foundations. One of the things is like, I'm applying. We're applying for grants, and we're applying for grants, and we're trying to figure out what the best pitch is to them. And anything that sticks, we should do if people will pay us to do it. So like there was a World Food Program was saying, hey, we want transparent donations. Turns out they changed their mind and they don't want to work with us, and we're trying to sort that out. But if they want transparent donations, we'll build it if they'll pay for it. Ethereum Foundation wants, it seems like they might want some things so that we could sort out. So if we can make a grant for it, we'll do it and be money driven and try to, of course, look at the funding pool.
For Dev's working group, I can pay attention more to the issues that was neglected for the improvements, and also try to push it forward with Ahmed to prepare this product KPIs ready. At least we presented it this week to the community.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I feel like there's a million things to say on the comm side. But I think maybe like something to focus in on would be, yeah, the data or whatever we've gathered so far. I mean, we've created this project survey that was going out this month. We've had donor survey go out before. Like as you mentioned, we have data sitting around. Be interesting maybe to get that together. I don't know. It's like prioritize looking at that again. And also, maybe there's a way to mobilize sooner than later some efforts around setting up some calls. Not just comms people can do that. There's also, the outreach team or people involved in fundraising, but like basically having a couple of these concerted like discovery calls. Then there's also, the option to do more polls, things like that, but basically around this topic of data and input from our existing user base.
We are at the top of the hour, but if anybody else like from a working group wants to state any kind of like goals or intentions that they kind of glean from this call, I'd love to still make space for it, but if you have to go, go. Oh, cool. It's okay. We'll leave in a minute anyway. It seems like nobody has anything else to say, right? Okay, great.
Nothing of interest.
I would love to hear final thoughts from Mitch.
Well, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, hey, what am I going to do now? I'm like, shit, The DAO thing is like, what's the DAO working group going to do? Well, it runs itself and it mostly works. And like, my personal goal for 2023 was to do more development. And now it's like the org is doing a U-turn. So I'm like, okay, shit, am I going to go back to writing blog posts and communication stuff back in 2020 when I started? So that's my thought process. What are my personal goals versus what's the goals of the org?
Yeah. Well, I think there'll still be some development stuff. I think you'll still be able to do development stuff like within the improvements and QF. I'm sorry, Mitch. Or maybe we don't do that. We're just talking about it. But okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for your time. I think this was a really valuable call. The notes are in the Notion. I'll put them somewhere that makes more sense in our Notion. And I think I'll also try to maybe make this into a little bit briefer of a Notion doc that it's like, this is what we talked about, so we can distribute it with the rest of the community and just kind of mention what we're talking about. Do you think that it would be valuable? There was Kai mentioned that it would be valuable to have this kind of call once every quarter. Should we generally try to plan for that? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Should we do it? Should we do one sooner? Does anyone feel like we're incomplete and we should still keep talking about this in another call within the next month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to I'll schedule another call sometime in the near future, and I'll compile this information to a doc and set up also quarterly stewards meetings. Thank you so much for joining. You're all great.
Oh, thanks, Lauren.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.